नमस्कार। मेरा नाम जगत साय है। मैं वेस्ट गोदावरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट आंध्र प्रदेश से बिलोंग करता हूँ। इन सिविल सर्विसेज एग्जामिनेशन 2020 आई हैव स्कोर्ड ऑल इंडिया रैंक 32। तो इस वीडियो के द्वारा मैं मेरी स्ट्रैटेजी डिस्कस करना मतलब शेयर करना चाहता हूँ। सो कमिंग टू द प्रिलिमिनरी स्टेज ऑफ दिस एग्जामिनेशन, I gave 5 attempts. So 5 बार मैंने प्रीलिम्स दिया गया है. So इसमें I cleared prelims thrice. 2 बार I couldn't clear. So there are certain do's and don'ts which I learned from my own experiences. सबसे पहले in my first attempt I prepared well. If I have to say, of all my 5 attempts, the amount of efforts that I have put in, that was highest in my first attempt. So knowledge की कमी नहीं था तब, लेकिन the strategy that I adopted in the actual examination scenario was wrong. When I used to practice in my room and in my test series, I used to attempt around 85 to 88, 90 questions, and that was my sweet spot.
In UPSC examination, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of your journey to success. Are you ready? Are you ready? Not let the first chapter demotivate you. Are you ready to constantly improve? Are you ready to shed your sweat? Are you willing to burn midnight oil? Are you ready to think, read, write and give it all like a topper? Are you ready to prepare for UPSC 2023? You have everything in you to be a civil servant, but you are demotivated only because of financial constraints. Then welcome to Smash UPSC 2023 initiative, an initiative by Civil Daily. It is India's best scholarship program for UPSC civil services. The dates of the test are on 13th and 28th March. The test will be conducted online at 10 a.m. The syllabus will be your GS1 prelims syllabus. So, what are you waiting for? Get off the snooze mood and register right now.
So, lekin when I went into the actual examination, because of few questions and few easy questions, I thought that this is not the standard of UPSC. It's asking very simple questions, so there are some traps laid down here. I overthought there and I marked wrong answers. As a result, I could not attempt my more number of questions as well. So I just attempted 73 questions and I came out of the hall, which was not my original strategy, natural strategy. So because of this, I scored 112 marks and the cutoff being 116. So what I learned from that is that not everyone's strategy is same. Like I spoke with a few of my seniors who said that we shouldn't attempt more than 80 questions. ये last 10 दिन में मैं ये advice लेके चले गया exam और I started implementing it in the actual examination. So that didn't work. Everyone has their own way of clearing this examination. और ये मुझे second attempt तक पता चला. So in my second attempt, I worked on this. I cleared it. And the same thing happened in my third attempt again. So third attempt mein there was some psychological pressure on me because of my not getting through into the final list in my second attempt. So, and again I attempted only 70 questions. I was lost in time. I was not focusing on the paper in those 2 hours, and again I flunked prelims. Then I started thinking about this preliminary stage very seriously, because prelims is even now I would say that prelims is the most toughest stage of all three stages in this examination. That's what I personally believe. So then I worked on every nuance of this preliminary stage. I started working on both preparation aspect as well as the psychological aspect, that what runs through our mind in those 2 hours. At the end of the day, it's taking question by question. One question, every question, whether it's tough or easy, gives us 2 marks. And our focus should be on scoring marks. So in whichever way you score marks, that doesn't matter. You have to score marks. So what I tried was, like, I revised static textbooks in a way that whatever question comes from the standard textbooks, let it be Lakshmikant of polity, let it be modern history spectrum, you should attempt it, and you should attempt it correctly. There is no scope for leaving the question. There is no scope for making the question wrong. So if you remain foolproof in the static portion, irrespective of the toughness of the questions in current affairs, you will at least clear the civil services cutoff, if not the forest service cutoff. So this has been my strategy since my fourth attempt. That's what I did. I revised my Lakshmikant many number of times. I cannot give you a number. The same with all other standard textbooks. So that gave me a huge confidence that even if the current affairs becomes very difficult, static will sail through. Static will make me sail through this stage. So I also practiced a lot of practice tests taking from the market. So what I used to do in practice tests is to start guessing. If I know only 50 questions out of 100 in a question paper, I used to sit and think in what way I can derive the answer if I don't know the subject knowledge of the question also. Either it can be through some correlation, some elimination logic, even if that is a stupid logic. I used to try all these things in my practice tests. So as there is, when you practice more and more, your intuition starts developing in a correct way, in a right direction. So sometimes you start feeling that this might be the correct option, but you do not know why you feel so. Unfortunately, sometimes it becomes true. So that's how intuition gets developed. When you practice more, that intuition brings you that correct answer. For example, in 2020 preliminary stage, I was giving this paper and I came across a question. I don't remember. There was a book of name of the book written by whom. So the options were Mahatma Gandhi, B.R. Ambedkar, and two other names, in which one was not familiar at all. The book name was also not familiar. So I had to answer it. I decided to answer all the questions. So I had to answer it. So what I found was that I never heard the name of the book. In my 5 years of preparation, I never heard the name of that book. I read a lot about Gandhiji, I read a lot about Ambedkar, but I never heard about this book, which means that these people should not have written that book. So that's a very risky decision that I have taken, and I went with an option which I have never heard of. Unfortunately, that got right. So when you are very confident about your own preparation, I was confident that I read most things about Gandhiji, most things about Ambedkar, and I never heard about this book name, which means they must not have written that book. So this is how you come to an answer. This is how you arrive at an answer. These being the peripheral questions, the core questions like right from the subject knowledge, that should that those number of questions should be around 40 to 50. Only then you can take these kind of risks. So this is my overall strategy for prelims, like revise most static in an efficient way, foolproof way, and don't rely on current affairs excessively. You do current affairs, but don't rely on them excessively. CSAT, if you're not from engineering background, even if you're from engineering background, practice a bit. I shouldn't say this, but I never practiced CSAT because I always thought I was decent in CSAT because of my engineering background. But these days, even people from engineering background are not able to clear. So the questions are becoming difficult. So don't take it easily. Practice CSAT also, and you will sail through the preliminary stage. Now I will be sharing my examination strategy, like what to do in those 2 hours in the preliminary stage. So सबसे पहले never get bogged down when you get tough questions in a row, because अब कभी-कभी ये हो सकता है कि कई सारे sets में all the tough questions are given at one place, right from first question to 10 questions. ये बस ये समझिए कि you need to get maybe 70 questions at max, right? That will definitely get into the mains list. So every question, whether it's tough or easy, gives you 2 marks. So if you are having 10 set of tough questions in this row, in the first 10 row, that means you have many easy questions in the next 90. So ये मत सोचिए कि पेपर टफ है और मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी ये सब. तो बस you immediately change your way of attempting the question, go back, maybe come from 100 to 1 or maybe 50 to 100, so that you get some confidence. तो ये momentary decisions लेना बहुत जरूरी है. इसके अलावा when you start getting into the swing, you also mark all the questions in which you are 100% sure. And I used to bubble as and when I decide on a particular answer, I never waited till the end. I used to bubble immediately. So it also depends on individual style, like how they do. So first round me, I used to do all the questions which I am sure of. I used to also eliminate, if I can, in the first round itself, in questions where I can eliminate one option or two options. I used to keep them for the second round. So I used to solve the paper only in 2 rounds. First round, all the questions in which I'm 100% sure of. So they used to be around 30, 35, 40. Very hard. Only once I had 45 questions or something in my first round. Not even 45, maybe 42 or 43. So when you come to the second round, then you need to also keep tab on the time, because I did only 2 rounds. I can only cross through a particular question in that round only. So sometimes I used to take risk in the second round itself. If I had to choose between two options, and if I cannot eliminate after two options, I used to take risk. Uh, some logic or elimination, intuition, whatever you say, I used to take risk and then go forward. Sometimes after thinking a lot, when you come for the second round, then you might get some clue from your preparation or from something. But maybe while solving another question, you might get a clue for solving a different question. So this also happens in the second round. So that's how I used to solve the entire 100 questions. And by the time I complete 100 questions, the 2 hours used to be up. So that's what my examination hall strategy was. So now let's move on to the mains preparation and mains execution stage. This time in my 5th attempt, I did not score well in my essay. I did not score well in my optional paper. So I'm not going to talk about these 2 papers. Sorry for that. So, but in my earlier attempts, I got very good scores in both essay and optional. This time also, after giving the papers, I was so confident of getting good marks. But as expected, UPSC surprises us. It surprised me even this time. But I got very poor marks in my general studies papers earlier. But this time I got 452 marks. If cumulatively, if I sum up all my 4 papers, it's 452. So I will be talking about this, like what very minor changes that I have done. In my earlier attempts, there was nothing wrong with my preparation strategy. I made my notes, I revised my notes. But my mistake was in execution. Like when I go to the examination hall, I never thought that people were so competitive. I used to write whatever I know, and then I thought maybe this will do. But what I found was that after talking to some of my friends who got into the list, some of my seniors, I used to send my answer scripts to them between prelims and mains. So what I understood was that they were very happy with my quality of answers. But I used to write only 3-4 points per question, and then end it there, and then move on to the next question, because I thought only good points would fetch us marks. But it's very important to focus on certain very obvious points also. Like sometimes we feel that they're very generic in nature, but they are certainly not generic for the examiner. They must be expecting those obvious points as well. So that's how I improved from maybe writing 4 or 5 points per question on an average to 7 to 8 points per question. But making sure that the quality remains intact. There was no absolute compromise on quality, but improving a bit on quantity, as well as highlighting few important case studies, talking about some speeches of Prime Minister or President. Like I remember Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji talking about malnutrition in one of his Mann Ki Baat speeches. So I heard that speech and I had some 2-3 different dimensions about malnutrition. Like I still remember he was talking about malnutrition, and then he said one of the important reasons for malnutrition in India was the early marriage of girls, because girls get married before 19, and the babies they give birth to, they have very poor nutrition and health related aspects. That also contributes to malnutrition. So these kind of different perspectives from non-traditional sources, like we rely on newspaper, we rely on our coaching material, but these, when you listen to president, vice president, prime minister, or some Lok Sabha discussions, you get these kind of different dimensions. So I used to collect these kind of things and enrich my notes. So this also helped me this time, which I found that they gave me certain edge. So this is my overall GS strategy. Other than this, there was also another thing which I changed in my execution in those 3 hours in the mains, in my examination hall. That was, in my earlier attempts, I used to focus a lot on the questions in which I had good content, and I used to neglect the questions in which I have very relatively lesser knowledge. But I changed it this time. I made sure that I'm going to stick with the time limit, irrespective of the quantity of, irrespective of the knowledge that I have on that question. Because what I feel is that in any question, getting the first 30% to 35% of marks is easier than getting the next 10%, like 35 to 45% of the marks or 50% of the marks. For that extra 1 mark, we cannot afford to spend 2 or 3 minutes. If you spend those 2-3 minutes in the next question, you will get the next 3 marks very easily. So the marginal utility which I feel is very less in spending that time in getting that extra 1 mark from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5. So this is what I did, and that also I feel worked for me this time. So this is my overall impression about general studies. And as I said, I don't have the credibility to talk about my optional scores. It was less. I got only 234 this time. Thank you very much. Best wishes. Jai Hind.